Welcome back to Collaboration Conversations. I am so excited about our panel today and our guest co host. As you know, I have a co host for this show, Pearl Cox, who's unable to be with us right now. And so we have guest co host, and my guest co host today is Bill Gammon. Bill and I met recently, and we have been enjoying this association and this friendship that is developing. And I couldn't wait to have him as our guest co host today. So, Bill, I am going to let you tell all about you. Would you take a moment and just share briefly about your journey, how you got here, who you serve, and why?
Certainly. Thank you, Regina. It's a pleasure to be here and have the guests join us. I started out in the business world with United Airlines in an entry level position at JFK. 2.5 decades later, I was with a different airline and I was vice president of marketing, sales, reservations, schedules, and pricing. I'd sort of gone up the stair steps, one step at a time. I left the airline business a few years later, uh, went into the investment business in Indianapolis, a city I never lived in, because a man named Joe Massotti told me, Bill, you can do real good for your clients if you just work half the time. I said, that sounds good, Joe. And he said, which 12 hours are you going to work, son? So from there, I said, Joe, it's really not the hours you work, it's what you put in those hours. And so 6 months later, I'd become a vice president with Shearson. Became their best new broker in the Midwest my first year. Over the next 3+ decades, I had the good fortune of being the number one financial advisor in America for three other broker dealers. And so I got there with a lot of help with coaches like you and me and a lot of other folks, from secretaries to leaders or vice presidents or clients, because we get where we are with a lot of help from a lot of people. And I
So
had
true.
some of the best coaches in the world during that time. And I won't go through taking time naming names, but a couple of them were named Norman Vincent Peale and Zig Ziglar. So I got the enthusiasm and the trust and the empathetic way to serve with a servant heart and help people achieve what they want to achieve. And that's the secret sauce anywhere, but you have to put it into action. And these people that I'm on the screen with today all put it into action and help people in different ways. And I'm going to start with a lady who does it differently. And her name's Christine. And Christine is going to tell you about herself and her journey. And then we're all going to talk once we get through introducing ourselves about how we help people and how that benefits the world and the people surrounding those folks.
Awesome.
Christine.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you. My name's Christine Alexander, and this is the pitch that Bill helped me write. So I'll tell you to right now. I'm an extremely successful improv teaching artist and business facilitator with a proven track record of helping teams think on their feet, be more creative while building stronger relationships for businesses and charities. So what does that mean? Who knows? Who knows? I know. It means that I go into businesses and I take an hour with them, sometimes more, to help employee engagement and liven their morale.
Awesome.
Should I keep going, Bill?
If you like.
Yeah.
Tell us how you help the charities.
Okay, so let's see. In the beginning of 2000s, I started taking improv, and I realized that the voice in my head that was constantly telling me that I wasn't doing good enough was quiet during those 2 hours of improv class. And I thought, well, this is what I want. I want that voice to be quiet. And if you're wondering, Christine, what voice are you talking about? It's the voice that just asked you, what are you talking about? That voice. Her name is Ursula. Please, if your name is Ursula, don't take offense. And so then somebody asked me to take this work into an office where people were eating lunch. And so me and a friend went out and we did some improv for them while they were, curiously eating lunch and laughing at us. And we created laughing lunches. Then a couple of years later, one of my clients asked me if I would be interested in doing a workshop for people who had cancer. And I said, absolutely. And the first time I did it, a lady came up to me and said, for that hour, I didn't think about cancer at all. So that's when I went into high gear and started volunteering my time for anybody who has chronic pain or cancer or any kind of anything, to come to my support group on Friday at 1:00 so that we could not talk about the thing that's ailing us and we can just laugh and have community. And then, of course, I continued to do my corporate training. So thank you, Bill.
Awesome.
Eric, why don't you tell us what you do and how you do it and how you got here?
Hi, Bill. Yes, so I've done a lot of things over the years. I started as a journalist, a sports writer for years. Then I worked at a naturopathic doctor magazine as an editor. And I worked for a real estate negotiation management company doing a lot of content creation, curation, as well as social media and email automation, corralling, as it were, 50,000 contacts and such. Then I worked for, and this is probably pertinent to here, Bill and I are in this awesome kind of cohort of business coaches. So I'm becoming a business coach. But for today's purposes, I'm also a world-class Facebook ads marketer. I got to work at basically a subcontractor of Facebook for about a year and a half, did $100 million in ad spend there for 1,200 clients, 500 of those were agencies, where I'm able to help the structure. So I have lots of stories to tell, but really the structure is so important to Facebook ads. Where I tripled someone's revenue. We didn't even change any of their copy and creative. You can always iterate a copy and creative, but structure matters. I created a company called Sling Media Consulting out of this for the last couple of years, where we go in and solve the problem of Facebook ads for businesses. They can never have to pay a Facebook ads agency ever again after 3 months. And so really here to, I mean, I could go on for why I think agencies do not serve people. For Facebook ads specifically, obviously for regular agencies, that's fine. But for Facebook ads, it should be only done in 4 hours a month. And if you're taking any more time than that, then you probably don't know what you're doing. And that's not an insult, but it's just a fact. And so I've done up $20 a day to all the way to $500,000 a month in spend for one client, and know all the things to scale. I call it the levers to pull and the pitfalls to avoid. And I've become a tech stack guy and love to help as many people as I can.
Jason, it's your turn. Tell us what you do and how you do it and how that benefits the clients that you serve.
Sure. Well, my name is Jason Weinstein. I'm a sales director with Tiger Analytics, which is an advanced analytics and AI professional services firm. We help clients make better decisions from their data and make sense of that data. We all know that there's more data in the world now than there's ever been, and organizations are struggling to make sense of that data, leverage that data for better decision making, and to stay up with the world, modernize, compete with their competitors. I have been in the technology space, selling technology solutions for the last 15 years. But my career actually started in advertising. Grew up, selling TV, radio, print, and outdoor. Really fell in love with the idea of being able to create things that had never been created before and figure out how to sell that to someone. And from there, I moved into digital and internet advertising, and then from there into technology. So I've continued to kind of push myself outside of my comfort zone. And through my journey, collaboration has been such a big part of that, both collaborating with my colleagues outside my industry, within my industry, work, family. It's played such an important role in helping me get to where I am today.
Thank you, folks. Regina, why
Awesome.
don't you ask a question?
All
Well,
right.
tell us a little bit about your background first, so everybody's on equal
Sure.
footing here.
I'd be happy to do that. So, yeah, I'm a huge proponent of collaboration. Thus, we have this show, right? Go figure, right? So, I have been an entrepreneur as long as I can remember, since I was a child. I was an entrepreneur as a child, and have always had this sense that part of my mission in life was to help others achieve their full potential. So coaching has been a natural place for me to come into the coaching world, because then I actually get to use those skills and God-given talents in a better, more focused way. For me, the driver is being part of the ripple effect that I get to create as I help someone else be successful. And they go out and change the world in new ways. And so that drives everything I do pretty much. It creates those moments when I get off the phone with a client or a prospect and I go find my husband somewhere in the house and say, have I ever told you that I love what I do? No, hon, never heard it. So, you never get tired of helping people. And collaboration, I think, is one of the greatest ways that we can do that. I'd like to start with Christine. I want to go back to, as you were telling what you do with the team building. I mean, you are literally in that taking them into that collaborative mode, right? Helping them to support one another. What have been some of the results that you've seen from that?
It's amazing. Okay. I can think of one man who came up to me before a 3-hour workshop, and he came up to me and he said, I am the director of landscaping. I want to be outside. I don't want to be here, and I'm not going to have fun. Okay, sorry, and after the 3rd hour, he came running over to me and he said, I am so sorry I said that. This is the most fun I have ever had. I know my coworkers better than I ever have before. I feel such part of the team. So yeah, the work that we do is incredible. And I can tell you that one of the first things I say to everybody is there's no mistakes. Okay, so if it feels like we're making a mistake, we all just do a little a sign language applause. Aha! And we just let it go, because here failure is a stepping stone to success. We want to fail as hard as we can in improv class, so that way in business, we're not failing any longer. We have the success out there. So I encourage everybody to just fail. It's okay. It's all right. Let's do. So that's one of the things.
Forward.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Bill, I can see you have a question on your face.
The good thing about failure, as I see it, is that once someone gets beyond that fear of failure, they've taken the first step on a journey that gets them to the destination they seek. And if you look at the most successful people in history, they've had a multitude of failures. And it's just another step along the journey that they're taking that we need to help them with sometimes, and maybe encourage them or have their back or lift them up or celebrate with them, depending on the outcomes.
Yeah. I think if we can look at everything as an experiment, then it's just a learning opportunity, right? The experiment either worked or it didn't, and we learn from both sides of that, and we tweak and adjust and move forward and do it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fun thing about having an improviser with you is that you're with a person who's going to take your mistake and make it correct. I was on stage one time and I said zucchini instead of zucchini. And so then every single vegetable after that was carrot and everything was wrong to make it right. And
right.
That kind of support is, it's a drug.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Jason, I'm curious, how would you describe one of the most successful collaborative ventures that you've had? What was that like for you?
I think what successful collaboration for me looks like is a few things. One, it's embracing diversity. I think the research is clear. Diverse teams outperform non-diverse teams by a large margin. So really trying to get a large pool of diversity tool to being respectful. There's lots of different types of people in the world, and it's really important to approach those types of collaboration, conversations, being respectful to lots of different people's points of view, even if they're maybe different from your point of view. And we never know what maybe that other person is going through in their life. So we always need to be respectful to the people that we're working with. We really focus on value creation. So, instead of sort of putting the attention on what's in it for us, we always try to put the attention on what is in it for them. What is in it for our clients, our prospects? How can we create that value that they're looking for, and not get wrapped up in what maybe our internal or external motivation might be. And then, I think fully, being open and authentic. Oftentimes I'm collaborating with global teams, and it might be my morning and it might be their evening. So they might not be feeling their best because it's like time for them to go to bed. So, understanding everyone's context, I think is important to know that, when that collaboration is happening is important. So I think those are a few things that I would share.
I think there's some really important points there. Bill, you had a comment?
I think they're absolutely important points, and I'll give an example. Last night, I talked to a man who supports me. He's in London, but his support staff is in Sri Lanka. And not only was he on, but a couple of his other support people got on the call during the call to make sure that they all were a part of the collaboration and could come up with the outcome that we desired. And so the world is shrinking, and support people, for whoever you are, wherever you are, can come from any place on the planet. And that's good, because the more we work together, the closer we become to each other, and the differences that keep us polarized start to disappear. And we have that effect on folks, whether we're conscious of it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric, you had a comment on that?
No, just it's very true to be collaboration so important. Leading with the servant's heart, for sure, is so true. Kind of servant leadership, where it's for them. It's how could we serve them best, making sure we don't, like Jason was kind of saying, you don't want to ram down whatever ideas you have about down the right person. You want to say, okay, what do you actually need? Who can I connect with? If it's not me, like who can I want you to be moved forward today, because we're always going to leave them better than we met them. We want to really help make sure, okay, what's the correct, appropriate thing for you right now? Diagnose it, really understand, really ask the right questions, be active listening, so that you can have the right answer for them that maybe they don't even know themselves. That's what we as coaches do. We want to diagnose with all the information, and then move them forward to wherever is the right place to go.
Love that. And that diagnosis is so important, as opposed to just thinking we have the answers and trying to direct someone somewhere when we really don't understand the situation. One of the things, yeah, go ahead, please say that again, Eric.
Very much like the hammer and nail, like I can't go about saying, okay, because I do Facebook ads, my main thing, it's like, well, you come to me, you're going to get Facebook ads and nothing else. Like, no, you got to have a wide, diverse array of skills to appropriately and network to the help, so that you can give them the right information for their situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bill?
What I've found to be true is the best place to do that is at the start of the relationship. And when we ask people what they want, sometimes the first 2 or 3 things we hear is what they don't want instead of what they want. So we have to go deeper and deeper
Yeah.
to unearth what they really want and how they want to get there and the things that they're willing to give up and compromise and change to be in step with what's going on in the world today, because the world is changing at warp speed.
Yeah.
Unless we make adjustments with it, we're going to be left in the dust. And so to keep up with the pace of business in the world requires exactly what we're talking about: an open mind and a way to look at processes and procedures that others currently are aware of that we haven't brought into our mental space and implemented yet. And the sooner we get to doing that and helping each other with that, the more all of us thrive.
True. And going back to what Jason had said, we've got to have that open mind, that open perspective to accept everyone, that diversity piece. I think so often we get locked as a society in seeing people differently. And, we're all people. Each of us has strengths and weaknesses and multiple aspects to our personalities and to our beings. And we need to embrace that. So I really appreciate you bringing that point in, Jason, because I think that's so critically important to our future. Not just individually, but as societies. If we can't learn to accept one another, I think we are doomed to failure. And I don't want to be there.
Right. And I think in this world, that's more difficult because we're collaborating over video versus in person, and we can't, see each other's body language. And, for a time, people were wearing masks and couldn't even see their faces.
True.
So that form of collaboration is very different, than in-person collaboration.
Right.
And so now we're, needing to operate in a world that we never had to, work in before. And there are some differences, and, able to connect with people, you definitely have to work a little harder, in this setting versus in an in-person setting.
Agreed. Yes. The atmosphere, if you will, is a little different on this camera and looking at everyone in these little squares versus sitting across from one another in a room and engaging in a conversation. And you're right, that body language that you see in those situations versus what we see here when we see, from the neck up kind of a thing. Totally different. Absolutely.
Christine used to be all in person, and now
Right.
circumstances have caused her to be almost all online.
Yeah.
So tell us how that's affected you and the people you work with, Christine.
Well, it's not great. I mean, it's great for me because I get to, basically roll out of bed and come to work, at my desk. But like you are all saying, the energy that's shared between, when we're in person is just different than what it is on Zoom. Although I have a lot of clients who have remote workers, and they never get to meet anybody. They never get to talk to anybody. They're just working for this machine. And so I get to bring them together, and then they get to meet each other. And now they're like this tiny little troop, it's adorable. So I have figured out some ways to make it work. And then there are companies who are doing the exercises in person, and I'm coming to them over Zoom, and that's working out great too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Definitely a new world, isn't it?
It certainly is.
But the last few years though have made the world so much smaller. All the horrific things that have happened over the last few years with COVID, there were several really good things that came about during that couple of year period. You know, we advanced technology by leaps and bounds. We made the world
Medicine the same
smaller.
way.
Medicine, absolutely. And the world became smaller so that we literally can work with people around the world. You know, got an invitation a week or two ago to speak at a conference in Paris in November, and it can be in person or virtual, you know. And the actual speaking engagements that are out there, there are more of them for virtual now than for in person. So yeah, it is a bit different. How does that affect our collaboration?
Well, one thing that I think is interesting is maybe this is, I mean, I can hope this touches on collaboration, because I was thinking of this before you mentioned that question, but it made a lot of people's business models more streamlined and therefore more lucrative. So they can hopefully use that money to actually hire people, raise their wages, do things, quote unquote, more correctly, because everything is so much more kind of like out there at their desks instead of having all these commercial buildings. So therefore also change commercial real estate. But the idea of the collaboration, like you said, it has to be, it takes more work because of it's more out there. But hopefully this like more economically change things so that in a way that would have never happened without COVID. So I think that's kind of a blessing in disguise in some ways.
Yeah.
For some businesses, it made a big difference. And so that's what confuses me when people are like, no, we're all coming back in the office. It's like, another reason why I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And yet I have to say, I totally miss having an office with my staff right there and being able to just pop into somebody's office or, you know, see people walking up and down the hall. But the ability to get in the same room and create a mind around something, I think is not as strong here in Zoom meetings or other platforms that you might use as it is when you're sitting around that table together brainstorming.
So question, Regina, do you think that the specialness of the once a year, whatever, people travel to get there, I think that almost makes it better than the casual nature of always having around. I think
probably so.
Away the risk or the annoyance is there.
I think also it's forced collaboration to become more of a mastermind. And as we look at it that way, then we accept the other premises, and then as a group are able to pick apart the best one together sooner than we would if we just had the meetings periodically.
Yeah, there's probably some truth to that, Bill. Absolutely.
Regina, what you were talking about, in improv, we call a group mind, where we all like do weird, things to get on the same page. I had a director that came into our rehearsal space. He had the lights off and he had some music playing and all he was doing was dancing. And we like sat down, we started talking and he starts dancing. And for the entire hour, we did not talk. We finally figured out that he just wanted us to dance and to create this group mind and to do this thing. If somebody turned on the light, he turned it back on and he got us to do it without even talking to us for an entire hour. We did games with each other. We were playing baseball. It was insane. Improv is amazing.
I would love to be at one of those meetings.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
And if I may just take the space again, the other thing that we do is yes and. You always think you're always talking about oh my gosh, Bill, your idea is so great. but my idea is better. When you say, oh, Bill, your idea is so great. And if we added this to it, what if we did that? It's so much more collaboration wise. Yes. And then also in sales, Jason, do you ever use this where you're like, yes, I see that you are denying my estimate and I'd like to know why, rather than, But is it because it's too expensive? That's your.
Well, exactly, Christina. I mean, even when you're working with clients and prospects, it's a collaboration, right? They've got, a goal in mind. They're trying to find maybe a solution to their organization. You're trying to sell them a product, and it's about, meeting at that middle ground, finding a reasonable price that they feel comfortable paying and for the services that you're offering. But I think you're absolutely right. It shows up in all areas of our work and life.
Yeah. And so I just tell my students to just notice when you hear the yes, but, or you say the yes, but. You don't have to change anything. Just notice it. And as you keep noticing it, you'll start noticing that you're changing it.
It has to be that conscious effort, doesn't it? In all of these things,
Change requires intentionality.
Yes,
you have to be very intentional about wanting to change it, and be very persistent and consistent in pursuing that change for you to move it from your conscious mind to your unconscious mind.
Absolutely. Good discussion so far, folks. Really enjoying this. So, just taking a look at some of the things that you had said here and looking for some other opportunities that we can talk more about collaboration.
I have a question for Jason.
Yes. Please.
Do you have tools, like little tricks of the trade for when you're speaking to your clients on how to get them to open up about what they need, or how do you have a conversation where you just.
I mean, I think maybe what you're talking to is that, when you're working with a client and collaborating with them, it's important to have some rapport and to build some of that initial trust and relationship. And, you might connect with your client on a personal level. You might both, realize, oh, you're both, raised in the Midwest, or you both like this baseball team. But finding, commonalities that you can connect with your clients, so that I think, when you do get to that more sort of business collaboration, you have some kind of personal connection, some personal bond that you can, continue to develop that relationship from.
Amazing. That's what we do in improv. So come to a class. You don't need it. Yeah, obviously. You got it. Yeah.
So let me ask you all a question. When you meet new people on social media, as we all do you seek for collaborative opportunities with them first? And if so, how do you do that? Eric, you nodded your head. Let's
I mean, I have this on LinkedIn in a lot of places. I have people that jumping in. I have an automation that's going, that's getting new people all the time. And so I want to know, like, everybody, as people say, everybody has their one superpower, or many of them, right?
Right.
It's like, I kind of want to know, what's the secret sauce? Like, what makes, because there's a lot of businesses and industries that we're in, but I want to know, like, what is the thing? Bill and I know this, one of our mentors in this group that we're in says this thing, like, if you're in a networking event, and I love this idea that he said it to us yesterday, again, is if you're in a networking event and you're talking to people and you're saying, you talk to someone and you're saying, if I'm talking to other people at the show, at this discussion here, what could they say that would make it obvious that I should tell them about you? And like this, it's really collaborative. It's like, okay, let's build this. Say, I'm going to be an advocate for you, and you say it to a lot of people, and you become the connector.
Yes.
And that's so important, to be the connector. I love networking so much. I love getting on, like, something I've heard. I literally in the last 3 or 4 days had someone like, man, we can't have any more Zooms. And I kind of agree, but I also kind of love just meeting new people and saying, how can I help you? Hey, like someone was like, oh, my wife's making a dance studio. I'm like, well, I have a friend who literally helps dance studios make make it a reality. Now that when you're ready, let's talk. Like, it's so interesting to really get to ask deep questions so that you there's just all these connections that can be made that people don't. If you don't open up and they don't open up, you don't draw them out, then you're just never going to know that. I mean, that was 30, 45 minutes in a conversation. And it wasn't even about that. It was about it just you want to keep talking, and oftentimes silence is a way to achieve that, getting them to talk, and then you can make those connections that benefit them so well. But it's not because I want to hear myself talk. It's because they need to know enough about me to do the same for talk to other people about me, but also really to kind of have this reciprocity that I've talked enough now. You need to talk and tell me about your life so that I can know who to connect you with, right?
And isn't it inspiring and motivating when you can make those introductions? I love it when I get to introduce people to one another. And I always, in my letter of introduction, I always say, I can't wait to hear what you create. Because I want to know what came out of that introduction. I want to know where they went with that. And it's just so rewarding and exciting to be able to introduce people that way. And I think we should always have that in mind when we're talking to people. Who can I introduce this person to? Who needs their help, or who can support them in some way? Bill?
In line with that, it's not so much what we say or help someone learn. It's how we make them feel that causes things to open up. And if they feel comfortable and they feel supported, the door starts to widen, and your opportunity to really get to know what they really want and how to really help them accelerate on that path with your skills or with someone else that you know is more quickly brought to the fore and more clearly. Because to hit the target, you have to first get it clearly defined with specificity in order to zero in on that target, like a sniper on a target. You have to dial it in, and to dial it in get you started on the right path. But to fail to do it would be like a doctor without knowing what you are or what your malady might be, starting to prescribe.
Oh no.
Folks, we are live.
Practice for a reason. But, I want to work with doctors who have practiced enough to be perfect.
Jason, how do you handle that in terms of serving at that level where you're helping figure out who you can introduce them to? How do you handle that level of service to people?
I mean, I think, Bill hit on a couple key points. It's really about, first and foremost, sort of gaining alignment and being in alignment with your client or prospect, really understanding what their, goals and objectives are, what your goals and objectives are, and seeing if, those things, sort of line up together. I think it's also important, sometimes people do, put up a facade. Sometimes people do put up a little wall, and it's not until you sort of get to know them that you can sort of break down that wall and understand what's really behind that. So I think that's something also that sort of Bill alluded to, is that sometimes the first couple things that someone might say might not necessarily be the thing that they really want, but it might take a few conversations to really get to what they truly really want. And again, we sort of approach the philosophy that people buy for emotional reasons and justify it with logic. And so if you've got that idea in mind, it really helps drive you in those conversations.
Right, I agree. Very good, thank you. Christine, do you have those opportunities? I'm sorry, was that you, Eric?
Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Piggyback on what Jason said, like Jason knows this, but finding those pain points and like uncovering, okay, how much pain do you have with this problem? How much do you need to solve it? Do you want to solve it? Are you the only one responsible for solving it? and understanding, like, is there a timeline for this, and asking these questions to really uncover what we need so that I can help them actually, instead of, and like say, okay, it seems like you're on the pain, like, let's talk when you actually have the pain, no big deal. Like, this pressure that we put on ourselves and other people is just incredible sometimes. So we have to ask the right questions so we don't do that.
Good point. I know as a coach, one of the things I want to know is how motivated that person is towards their goal. Because if they're not motivated sufficiently, if it's not a high enough point for them, there's no point in taking them on as a coaching client because they're not going to do the work. Right? So, Christine.
I used to work at a commercial photography studio for 10 years. And we used to say, if my boss doesn't know the person, I know the person. We like know everybody in this town. And so I can't help but collaborate as soon as somebody says they're doing something. And, oh, we haven't found this place yet. And like, boom, yes. And, I can't help but do it. Can I like back up just a second?
Sure.
Maybe it's too far, but we were talking about fear, and when my students at the end of their 8-week class, they have a show in front of their peers and friends. And so I tell them, like, we all put our hands in the circle and we're looking at each other. And I tell them, that ball in your stomach that fears, it feels like fear right now. It's about to turn into courage as soon as you're on that stage, because you'll be in the action of doing the thing that you're afraid of. Yeah. And as soon as you get in front of that audience, it just goes, poof, it's gone. And all your pain is gone. My pain goes, poof, and all of a sudden I'm an acrobat. When I get home, I'm like, but there is something about having an audience there that takes, that helps them move from fear to courage.
And isn't that so true in work as well? There are things that are holding us, where we're holding ourselves back because we're fearful of taking that step. But once you do, you're in it. You're doing it. You're moving forward. Yeah.
You can watch basically any reality show and watch a person go, I'm so scared of doing this. And then right after they do it, they're like, I want to do it again.
Yeah, there you go.
So, it's one of those times where you just have to notice, oh, I'm being fearful again. Am I going to be in the action of it soon? Yes, then it's courage.
I love that. Bill?
I think courage is the understanding and practice that things that you used to be frightened of are just a rope in the dark. And the old story of the snake and the rope is in the mind of the seer. And so as coaches, it's very easy to help people change that snake into a rope, or cut the rope on that anchor that's holding you back, if you just have the courage to take that first step. And our job is to have their back and build them up so they will have that courage, and take that step and see the opportunities now on the journey that they're going toward successfully, and celebrate those victories with them along the milestones to that destination they wish.
Definitely.
And pick them up and support them when they have the failure along the way. And so I think it's very important to let them know there are going to be times you fail. Don't worry, we'll be there. We'll celebrate it and move on. It's just one thing that hasn't worked yet, but there are other ways to solve the problems.
Yeah.
And together, we'll find them. Look at Edison. Look at anyone who's built an empire and how many times they've failed along the journey to where they are.
Yeah.
Current people, you name them, pick any billionaire, whether it's Musk or the owner of Amazon, or you pick it out. They have had their own failures, personal and business-wise, but they have not let their failures stop their dream. And so one of the things I tell my clients is never give up on your dream.
That's right.
Always keep going toward what you desire. And you will get there and beyond, because it's the courage, it's the consistency, it's the intentional getting up and doing something that's difficult that you know that will get you there in spite of the things that come into our life as obstacles.
Mhm.
But obstacles are only stepping stones if you turn them into that.
Yeah, as coaches, we're very much like in the business of transferring resilience. We have it, we understand it, we're veterans of this thing, and we transfer to our clients this idea of resilience, the courage that you're mentioning. We're like supporting their hands as they're trying to push against the next thing, obstacle in their way. And we're here to make sure that they don't have this fear. We put them from fear to confidence.
Can
And
I
I
say
think it's-
too? Go ahead, Jason.
Go ahead, Chris. I was just
Please
going to
go.
say, I think it's really important to be in the present, to not, live in the past, to not live through your past experiences, to focus on the future and really try and live in the moment. And start with the outcome in mind.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Definitely.
Thank you. I love what you just said, Jason, how you were like, live in the moment and focus on the future, because those are very positive ways of saying it. If we say never give up, all I see is give up. Like, so can you say it positively? Like, always keep going. Thank you. Always keep going. Just in that very small change, there's just a small little kick in your brain, in my brain at least, that makes me happier.
There's power in our words.
Yes.
Absolute power in our words.
And
Absolutely.
sometimes the best way to reframe is to deframe.
Mhm.
Try to take something away from someone that really wants it. Now they really will get intentional.
Oh, folks, this has been very enjoyable. I've learned a lot from each of you and appreciate everything that you've contributed. Unfortunately, we are almost out of time. We have time for our final wrap-up round, which Bill is going to lead us in. So he's going to be calling on each of you to share your final thoughts and give your contact information. And then, Bill, let's conclude with you, okay?
Okay. So, Eric, tell me your biggest takeaway from today and the things that you are taking away that you didn't expect when you showed up.
Interesting. Well, this idea of, I think I'm just leaning into collaboration more. So it's not so much like, obviously I do this, but thinking of like, let's take it a step further. Let's lean into it. Let's be intentional about it. There's ways that you kind of get into a rut with this stuff. Like, oh yeah, I know that. I do that. And I do, but let me think, okay, who can I connect? How can I live out what Dale is telling us with the, who do I need to talk to? How can it be obvious who I should connect you with? Asking better questions. I like a lot of things that Jason said here in terms of like how I love a lot of what he said, but and everybody here is saying some great things that I'm really going to take away from. I love the idea of I've heard of improv and done it when I did some musical theater, Christine, and I love these yes and I need to really I need to think about that more. That's some fun stuff. So just trying to lean into some of that stuff and really kind of like just mull it over and see where I can find those opportunities to be courageous and to be a networker and a connector.
And your contact info, Eric, as well.
We're looking for LinkedIn, I'm assuming, probably.
Wherever you'd like to send folks.
We could, do you want to put it in the chat or where are we doing this?
Sure, that'd be fine. That'd be great.
Grab that here.
And we have had a viewer make a comment. Nambali, who's from Uganda, said, I believe collaborations is the way to meet objectives sooner. I so agree, Nambali.
My email, mail@ericsar.com, and my LinkedIn, you can easily find on LinkedIn, Eric Saar, ERICSAAR. Here's slingshotmediaconsulting.com to help Facebook ads. I'm working on potentially getting a big mastermind here for this if someone's interested in that. Also, I have some other programs to help solve the problem so that people don't have to be tied to agencies for years, and instead that spend that money on actual Facebook ads to actually grow your business.
So, Jason, why don't you be next?
Sure, Bill. I think, some of my big takeaways from today are that, not only is it important to collaborate with people that, you work with on a daily basis, but it's important to, try to collaborate with others outside of your network. And I think that, looking for other people where you can, bring value to them and they can bring value to you, and pushing yourself, like we've been talking about, the courage to step outside of your comfort zone. I think the more you step outside of your comfort zone, the more that you grow. So for me, trying to collaborate with people that maybe I never would have thought that I would have collaborated with in the past be something that I'm going to try and do more of in the near future. And, I think also, like, I really love what Christina said, and just in terms of being, very lighthearted and being willing to laugh and not take yourself too seriously. And I think when you sort of approach conversations like that, you might be a little more open and receptive, and authentic, as well.
Christine, you're next.
Did he give his information?
Right. Sure. I'll put my LinkedIn on in the chat, and you can find me. Again, my name is Jason Weinstein. I work for Tiger Analytics, but I'll put my contact information in the chat.
Fantastic. Well, can I take away that this collaboration was divine? It was great. I mean, I had no idea people were spending $50,000 a month on Facebook ads. It was like so much money. I just really enjoyed spending time with each of you talking about this. It was unexpected and exciting. So thank you for having me. My website is Laugh to Feel Good, because I say if it feels good to laugh, then laugh to feel good. We also cry to feel good after the pandemic and George Floyd and everything. So we also cry to feel good, and it's okay. I laugh to feel good, and my LinkedIn is there. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for having me. Thank you.
Awesome.
When I put this group together, and there are two people who couldn't make it today, unfortunately, I did so intentionally to have diversity. And even without the other two, we had a good bit of diversity here. And what I have found, Christine is a perfect example of how laughter is an elixir for a lot of maladies. And it gets us from the south side of the Hope Line to the north side pretty quick. And diversity gives us the opportunity to open up to other ideas, especially in a group of collaboration that we might not yet have accepted. Because the more we're exposed to them, the more we see benefits of things that we were socialized. Maybe that doesn't work. Well, not necessarily so. The world has changed, and what maybe didn't work when I got my degree in marketing from the University of Iowa in 1979, I don't think that would work too well today if I only used it to try to reach out to people I want to touch. And so we have to change with the times. And the more we're open to change and to ideas that others have to share with us, the sooner we will get to the destinations that we want to achieve and surpass in life. I want
Amen.
to thank everybody for all that you've contributed today. And I believe that we all collaborated well and shared ideas that not only will help it ourselves, but all who see this and all who we touch through this show today. Regina?
Thank you, Bill. Well said. Well said. Yeah, we have that opportunity to impact mankind, to impact globally through, locally and globally through our collaborations, working together. I appreciate each of you coming on the show today and participating in this discussion. It's always amazing to me, the folks that we get on the show, the amazing guest co-hosts that we have who bring our panelists, and the conversations that we get to have that we wouldn't have any other way. That, I haven't seen these conversations anyplace else. So, and we appreciate also the folks who've been watching today. We've had a couple of comments, one from Nambale and one from Chaminda. She said, "This is amazing, enjoying every bit of it." So thank you folks for being here. And if others are watching, be sure and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear your comments. And with that, we'll wrap up this session of Collaboration Conversations, and we hope to see you again next time. Bye for now.
Bye, folks.